This is King James Britt from Philadelphia. I'm here for the BPM College workshop, and yeah, here we go. What's up, y'all? Good? All right. So, like you said, I'm King Britt. That's my real name, King James Britt. And I just want to tell you a little bit about how I started and kind of my little story, because it touches on a lot of different facets of electronic music in America. So, you know, when I was little, my parents were collectors of records, which they still collect. And my dad owned a barber shop where it was all funk and soul and that sort of thing. And then my mom was really into jazz. She used to take me to all these jazz shows. Sun Ra.
Where did you born?
Philadelphia, sorry. Yeah, Philadelphia, and which is such a musical city anyway. So growing up with my parents' background, as well as the radio in Philly, was just phenomenal. I mean, all the stuff that you hear now and you call classics and boogie and all, that's the stuff that is played all the time on Philadelphia radio. Maybe not so much now, but back in the day. So, you know, growing up with all of that, you're influenced, of course, by jazz and soul and whatever. But in the 80s in high school, grade school, high school, I started to branch out into my own, kind of discover my own sound and records that I liked. So in school, we had a music appreciation class. So a lot of I come from kind of a more predominantly black urban environment. But when I went to grade school and then high school, it was very mixed. So it was kids from all over the city. So you got to hear music from everybody from AC/DC and Iron Maiden to Ozzy and then Michael Jackson, you know, everything. It was a melting pot. So I started to gravitate to all these different genres. And the thing that kind of glued everything together was the beats. I love things with big beats, like Zeppelin and oh god. All right, everyone. All right, I gotta stop for a second because this guy right here, his name's Oded Freed, and when I get to the part of working at Tower Records, I'll tell you more about Oded, but it's just great to see him here in Tel Aviv. Were you my boss for a little bit? I don't know if it was, but we worked the Tower together, so it'll be funny for you to hear. But anyway, so you know, high school, you know, listening to all these different new sounds and discovering all these different groups like Cocteau Twins, and we were talking about this Motor Coil, Joy Division. I just was going crazy, you know. But bringing this music back to the neighborhood, kids were looking at me like, what the fuck are you listening to, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't until like, I would say 82, 83, there were a lot of block parties for years, but I grew up with Jazzy Jeff and Cash Money and a lot of turntablists that, you know, pioneered things, different scratches and stuff in Philly. And I never thought I'd DJ ever. So I used to go see these guys at the YMCA, or I went to Central High School. They used to do our school dances. I mean, if you could see Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff doing our high school dances, it's kind of trippy to see these cats in the movies now and whatever. Not so much Jeff, but to see Will like where he is now. But Jeff especially would mix a lot of these rock records and take the breaks and loop them and live, and I just felt at home because, you know, they're taking like a Zeppelin break or Billy Squier, and this is stuff that I was hearing in school, and then I'm back in the neighborhood. I'm like, see, he's playing it, so it's cool, but you know, I was ostracized, whatever. So there was like a kind of a group of us that only went to these shows. You know, we went to see, you know, all the kind of alternative acts that came to Philly, and it was a place called the Chestnut Cabaret, which was kind of an epicenter of all these kind of alternative sounds that were coming in. And then there was Grindel's Lair, where I think I did work there for a while, and a lot of different stuff. But yeah, it was just a great time to be young and into music. And in high school, I started to make these. I collected 12-inch vinyl, and you know, back in the day, now it's easy. Everyone gets an MP3, you share it, whatever. Back then, you had to wait in line. It was like going to the movies or something. Wait in line. Only 3 imports were coming into the city. You know, I remember waiting in line for 808 State New Build record, and this guy Chaz used to work at this place called 3rd Street Jazz, which was the spot to get vinyl, alternative vinyl. So 808 State, I'm like, who are they? He's like, they're this. 3 are coming into the country, and we're gonna have 2 of them at this store. I'm like, all right. We waited in line. We cut school. We would do anything to get vinyl. And because our friends couldn't get this stuff, but they wanted it, we used to make mixtapes. And mainly we made them for girls because, you know, it was like a way in. Here's a tape. So we made these mixtapes, and they started to sell in school. And it kind of started to lead to, okay, let's do a few parties. So we would do these parties just playing the vinyl. I couldn't mix for shit. Oops, I couldn't mix for anything, and but I had this collection. And then later, right after graduating high school, I went to community college, then to Temple, when my major was advertising. But while in Temple, I used to see this kid, and simultaneously I was working at Tower Records. I had just started, and I was just like a bag clerk for a while. And then there was this guy that bought 12-inch vinyl at Tower. He got fired. It's a little sad, but nobody else could step up to buy a 12-inch vinyl. No one knew what was going on. So I volunteered, and they gave me the job. So my job was to bring 12-inch vinyl from all over the world to Tower. It was like the dream job, you know, and that's where I met Oded.
You were like 18 or something, 18,
yeah,
19.
Yeah, and he, a long time ago, and he worked upstairs in jazz and New Age, which you turned me on to a lot of stuff, like Ashra Temple and like the Wyndham Hill stuff. And even though people laugh now or whatever, but that was the shit back then. Mm-hmm. And but anyway, so working at Tower, it was great because a lot of the DJs in the city would come, and I could turn them on to new music. The problem though, I couldn't really play music. We had a turntable, but I didn't have the permission yet to play it for people, right? So they had to go on my word. So flashback, when I'm in college, I keep seeing this kid, this white kid with dreads, right? With locks, right? I'm like, who the fuck is this guy with the locks, man? I never saw that before, right? And my friend Blake was real good friends with this guy, and he's like, yo, you need to come to these parties that he's throwing in these warehouses. I think you would dig it. So there was this place in West Philly, I think it was called Kill Time. Is it Kill Time? And Josh Wink was there doing these parties. So I went to some of these parties, and then I said to Josh, I got introduced to Josh through my friend Blake. I said, yo, you should come to Tower. I got these new records, and da-da-da. He's like, all right. So he came in, and I sold him like some shit record. Like, I thought it was good. He thought it was shit. He brought it back the next day. He's like, this is crap. And that's when we became friends. So Josh Wink and I, you know, became comrades at that part. And I was living in South Philly at the time, and I was sending out demo tapes. I've always been producing for a long time, collecting synths, just because of my love of art and noise and craft work, and trying to kind of emulate what they were doing as far as production, just for fun. But after a while, when you're doing parties and that sort of thing, you get this kind of urge to play your own music. So I started making these demo tapes, and Strictly Rhythm had just started, and Nervous Records, which are 2 of the biggest house labels of all time, were just starting. And because I was a buyer at Tower, I talk to them all the time on all these labels. +8, Richie Houghton used to call all the time. Do you guys think you could take a few of these records? I'm like, yeah, I'll take. Carl Craig, you know, Planet E had just started, and the '69 record had just come out, and I started to, you know, he's like, could you take 2 or 3 of these? I'm like, yeah. So this is how I met these people, over the phone. There was no internet, none of that stuff. And later I met them in person, but so I sent these demos and Nervous and Strictly Rhythm, and automatically like a week later Strictly Rhythm called back and we want this project. It was called E-Culture, and it was a project that I had done just in the bedroom, and Josh wanted to get more into production, and I was like, yo, you know, why don't you come in and do drums on it, something, let's just do it together. And he came in on it, and you know, we released it, Strictly Rhythm, and it became kind of a classic. They just re-released it actually on Defective, and Josh's girlfriend's on it, Kristen, or his ex-girlfriend, Kristen, she was rapping on it. We sampled Tears for Fears, we sampled African Head Charge, like we just tried to do everything in one record, right? And it was a big record in England, so it was our first trip to England. Josh went first, because I had finals. So he went first, and then he kind of met a lot of the people or whatever. And then I went later with my friend Dazia, and I had all these phone numbers from Tower. So the first person I called when I got to England, like excited, first time in England, big fan of ID Magazine, The Face, and like, you know, I got Doc Martens. I'm like, yeah, I'm in fucking England, man. You know? Trying to move there, like talking to Tower, like, can I transfer? Like, just kind of wanting to get out. And the first person I called was Digo from For Hero. Oh. And I had just taken some of Mr. Kirk's Nightmare for Tower Records, right? So Digo's like, yeah, come up. I can't do an English accent, but he's like, yeah, come up. So I met Digo and Mark, and their studio was like way up in kind of the attic of this studio complex, but you had to kneel down to get in. It was hot and everything's like, they had an Atari at 1040 ST, and it was just incredible. I was like, England, Digo and these guys. And then an hour later, this other guy knocks on the door. He's like, hey mate, what's up? And it was Goldie, and Goldie's there. I'm like, fuck, you know. And he had just released like an EP through Reinforced, and Reinforced was in its infancy, so it was like great to see all these people in person. So we all went out, and you know, we're walking down the steps, and he's like, oh yeah, this is, I can't even remember their names now, but they were Future Sound in London. Yes. This is before the big hit. I was like, oh yeah, how you doing guys? And it was just
Brian.
Yeah, it was just like one after another, like meeting everyone, and it was just a great time. So I came back to the U.S. like, I'm moving, fuck this. You know? But I never moved. I couldn't get a job through Tower at the time. But I just kept going back to England to play. And my first gig was at the Brainiac Club, which was owned by Wiegand. He was kind of like the Keith Haring of England. So I played there, and one of the guys who played with us became this guy, Spooky. Not DJ Spooky, but there was a group called Spooky.
Yeah, the progressive house
Duncan,
in the early
yeah,
90s.
exactly. So
this Guerrilla Records.
Guerrilla, yeah. So this guy Duncan, I remember him DJing there, and like we were talking about synths, and then later, I guess years later, I saw him at Glastonbury Festival. Like, yo, what up, man? So it's really funny to kind of meet all these people, and then when I came back to Philly, this guy came in the Tower looking for some jazz record. I think it was like a Roy Ayers Daddy Bug record, which is really rare. I'm like, you can't find this at Tower, but I have it at home, So he came over. Well, first he came to Silk City. We used to do a party called Back to Basics, which was DJ / band and whatever. I'll try to make this quick, but you can see where I'm going. We're meeting all these people. And So he's like, yo, I'm working on this project. We're just at the crib listening to records. He's like, I'm working on this project, and I wonder if you can help me, make copies of the demo tape. I'm like, yeah. So he brought it over. I'm like, damn, what the hell? I mean, he sampled Hendrix. I mean, it was just incredible to hear how this guy used samples, right? And it was Butterfly from Digable Planets. I don't know if you know Digable Planets, but they're a Grammy Award-winning group that I was involved with in the early 90s, and the big hit was Rebirth of Slick, Cool Like That. For all you young people who might not know.
It'd be nice to hear.
Huh?
You don't have it with you or something? Something?
I actually don't have it with me. But they did bring a bunch of records, but that's not one of
You
them.
can hum the trumpets.
But yeah. Which is an Art Blakey sample. Yeah.
Josh is in the video.
Yeah, we're all in the video. Yeah. But anyway, very groundbreaking group. So anyway, at the time, he's like, yeah, we're making copies of the demo, and he's like, yeah, I want you to be in the group. I'm like, nah, I'm doing the house stuff and whatever. And he's like, all right, whatever. So, we were just friends for years, and then he moved to New York for a while to shop this demo tape. And it took like 6 months or whatever, and then I got another call, and he's like, yo, I got the deal, dude. We're gonna sign with, the label was through Warner Bros. And I was like, nah, I'm like playing house music. Like, I don't want to do hip hop or whatever. And he's like, all right. So then later the album was in process, and he's like, come on in the studio. So I used to go in the studio, and they were working in North Bergen in Jersey. Used to go up there, and this is the same studio that De La Soul did, 3 Feet High and Rising. And Shane Faber was the engineer, and I was just like blown away, like learning all this stuff. And he's like, yo, we're going on tour, man. We're touring the world. You gotta DJ for us. And I was like, all right. You're touring the world, fuck it, So I went back to Tower, and I told our boss, I said, Ted, man, I need a year off. And Ted, our boss, was super cool. He was like, well, I can't give you a year off, but do what you gotta do. So I definitely took a leave of absence for like 3 months, and then I quit. I'm like, I'm sorry, I gotta quit. But while touring, we toured the world for 2 years. I met everyone. So I had every phone number that I acquired at Tower. So I remember going to Detroit and meeting Rob Hood and Carl in person. We all had dinner, and Richie, and it was just really a mind-blowing time to meet all these people starting these labels. And today we're still really good friends. I haven't actually talked to Richie in a long time, but Carl and Derek, everyone, like, really still tight. But if you don't know these names, these are some of the pioneers in the US and Canada for techno music. And I remember at that time bringing in a lot of these records at Tower, and I was getting a lot of shit for it because nobody was like buying them. And then all of a sudden the rave scene hit Philly, and Josh and I did one of the first raves, and we played everything, Aphex Twin, everything you could think of from England in that time period. Jam and Spoon was a huge one for us. Stella, oh my god, dude. Every time, that's still in my computer. Like, Stella is, yeah. So it was really an important time for music in Philly, and we were the pioneers of bringing the sound to Philly. But simultaneously, we were bringing the acid jazz sound to Philly too. So it was really crazy to hear all of this stuff in one night. But back in the day, it wasn't just a house night or a techno night. It was everything encompassed in one night, which is really, we need to get back to that, as far as nights. But I'll make this quick because we got stuff to do. But anyway, so at the same time as I was on the road with Digable, meeting all these people, Josh is on the road, and he did Higher States of Consciousness. First, Higher States, the original, is an ambient piece and it was for an ambient compilation that Strictly Rhythm put out. And then they asked him to do a remix, and I remember he played it for me. He's like, "What do you think of this remix?" I was like, "I don't know, dude." It's like
the breakbeat version.
It's like, yeah, the original,
the funkin' version.
Right, exactly. I'm like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's like, because Chemical Brothers had just come out at the same time, or right before that, and then I'm a big 808 State fan. So when it comes to acid house and that sort of thing, Baby Ford and 808 State is like, I was like, I don't know, man. I'm like, you're taking it somewhere else. I don't know. And then he's like, all right, whatever, dude. And then, and then I guess a year later from that moment, I'm in Europe. I'm like, wait a second, I know this song. Oh, fuck. I'm like, yo, Josh. Yeah, it was funny, man. Funny time. He's like, I told you. I was like, yeah, you did. So,
it was top 10 record in the UK.
Oh, huge. Yeah. Twice.
Yeah.
So, he came back to Philly. I came back to Philly. Digable Planets, we had just won the Grammy or whatever. And, which is a big award in the States for music. And then Josh was massive. So we joined forces again, and we're like, dude, let's we gotta start this label. So we started Ovum Recordings, which is still going on. Started Ovum. The first record we did was with a good friend of mine. Her name's Ursula Rucker, and the song was called Supernatural, and based on a bad night at a rave, basically. And Josh did a remix. I did the original. Another big tune. And then we just kept putting things out on Ovum, and then Sony offered us a big deal because of higher states and because of what we were doing with Digable. It was like, oh shit, why not? And this was the time MTV was embracing electronic music. They had a show called Amp, which was kind of a big deal. And yeah, it was a good time to be alive at that point. So we got this deal with Sony. We were scared. We didn't know what we were doing, but we did it. It was a good experience, good and bad. They really didn't know what to do with a lot of what we wanted, but the good thing that came out of it was big budgets. So I got to do Silk 130, which we have some things. Silk 130 is basically a collective of people that are put together of some of the best musicians in Philly. And I wanted it to be a concept record. So the first album is like a day in the life of a DJ growing up in Philly in the 70s. And little vignettes, and everyone on there is like heavy hitter out of Philly. And then the second album, Remembers Only, which came out 2002, but not through Sony, using their budget, but then we left, our deal dissipated, and we got all our masters back, luckily, and I put it out through a label called 6 Degrees. But that had all my heroes, Allison Moyer, ABC, Grover Washington Jr., De La Soul, Kathy Sledge. I had the big budget. I'm going for it, right? So I called everybody. Of course, Mark Bell. So it was just a really, it just was good for me, for my heart. It was fun to do that record. Huh?
It was good for me as well. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people didn't get that one just because the first one sold over 500,000 copies worldwide, but that was with the Sony machine.
No, I like the second one.
The second one, yeah, it was like, what? It's out? You know what I mean? But for those who have it, I'm glad. I'm re-releasing all of this stuff the end of this year, hopefully, as a box set, and unreleased remixes, new songs, all that sort of thing. I call it like the blueprint of kind of the neo-soul resurgence in Philly. It came out right before Jill Scott, and Jill used to come to our shows. We did a lot of shows, and I remember her coming to the shows, and she was like, yeah, I'm working on an album. Like, oh, cool. And then boom, you know. So it's like Philly is such a small music community, which Oded knows. He's one of the main musician cats out of Philly. at that time, and big influence, dude. Like, it's just wild. I haven't seen this cat. How many years?
Like 15 or something.
Yeah. So he was at the club last night. I'm like, what the fuck? All nervous and shit. But yeah, great time. So anyway, Ovum. Oh, I left Ovum 2002 just to produce and do remixes, and then that's when I did Adventures in Lo-Fi on BBE, the Josh one, remix, Gus. I mean, I just went crazy at that point, because Ovum was just, at the time with Sony and everything, it was just so taking up so much time as far as the business, and I just wanted to be free of that and just do music. And then when Ovum left the label, or left Sony, I just decided I just want to produce. I don't really want to deal with the label. And then Josh was like, I'm going to just keep it going. I'm like, cool. So, and it's probably one of the biggest dance labels right now. But anyway, so that's my story. I mean, I've done tons since then too, but I don't want to bore you any longer. But just, I wanted to get that out because it shows kind of the evolution of electronic music a bit in the US.
I played on the radio yesterday, I Can't Wait, with Twyla.
So you want me to choose?
Yeah, maybe you choose.
Alright, my favorite on here actually is... Oh, alright, let's do Cobb's Creek, just because it's upbeat, but De La Soul, the way I did this track... The way I did this track was, we didn't have CD... Cobb's Creek, 12. We didn't have CD burners or any of that stuff yet, so I did the track and we pressed it on vinyl. I called Jazzy Jeff. I'm like, yo, De La's coming in. Can you cut this live? It would be cool. They had never met. Jeff came in, cut it live while they freestyle. It's a freestyle. And this is the track.
My man Jazzy Jeff, old school like Sugar Ray Leonard, check it. Great wall like that China shit, banging out that minor shit, I keep it major. Lee Pack styles, give me that, pity pack your section squad, get your area wet. Big money talkers, place your bet. Illadelph affiliates, crank the drums and sweat. I delight him like the rhymerator. Been on a fader since summertime, got one of the rhymes to get you thinking, bro. Whole notes like the fat bitch in the opera. Hot sun chopping ya, wearing it all wrong. I pose like a threat in the flick, wetting your chick, setting the bic to paper. Pin my graphics on the wall of skyscrapers on the 51-6 floor. Getting the mix raw, J to the A, double zigger, y'all stitch cuts like a sewing machine. Going the scene, we Kodak on the back of it. Hot track by King Britt, so check it. To the other MCs who hold rhyme degrees, hit center stage, make them swarm like bees. DJs cutting like they lumberjacks. Best prepared for these racks. Brothers, we got something for ya. You can't touch, we got something for ya. Yo, come on, see, we got something for ya. It's live tonight. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. That starts every flow in your car stereo. Hit the spot like a Kona flavor cherry snow. Raw dog, wearing tear for the killing. Long Island villain, potholes, I'm still feeling. I'm 1,000,001/4 of a second off the hook. You bring it to the battle and I'll ring it when it's cooked. That's your ass as my optics connect the fiber without the glass. One that spills the milk with on tilt. I'm an outlet for fly that jealousy built. Name straight new age. When you see me on stage, show no relation to Satchel, but constantly paid. Rhyme fathers and rhyme sons, sisters with rhyme nieces. Dime pieces and doom dooms who look much better when in blue rooms and red lights. After sucking on a green bottle filled with that I hate the light. Politely screaming I ain't the type. To the other MCs who hold rhyme degrees. Hit center stage, make them swarm like bees. DJs cutting like they lumberjacks.
A little Philly history there. Great.
that was a very versatile album that like showed a very wide range of music genres and styles going on in the 80s. Like it was all referencing back to that.
Yeah, it was, and it's the reason I did a kind of a radio format for the album in Philly. Like I said, it was, we heard everything on the radio in the 80s, you know. So you would hear like a hip hop track, but then you would hear like a boogie song or a slow song or whatever. So it was a little bit more versatile in that respect as well.
You always kept this very open-minded approach to producing music, doing the albums, club tracks, doing compilations that were mixing stuff.
It's hard though, because you know, when you do a gig, it's like you get, sometimes you'll get your hip hop following and then you'll get this following. That's why I like a long set, because I can take you on a journey and everyone's happy. But if you got 2 hours and it's in a house club or a techno club and you're playing pretty much that, and then your hip hop following's like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, I don't really go into things thinking that way at all, but I am aware of it, and I'm kind of sensitive to it.
Yeah, I really wanted to ask you about really the time that hip hop and techno weren't so apart.
Right.
And they were all together, and I think you can hear it. I mean, on Size 9.
Of course,
read
yeah.
It's like the perfect combination between techno and hip hop.
Right.
Why do you think that these two genres departed from each other?
Well, okay, so when Size 9 came out, I remember when Josh did that record, and then I said to him, and you can ask him, I was like, dude, you should slow it down. That'd be cool, right? And he'd be like, oh yeah, let me use this. And it was Cypress Hill break. He's like, all right, let me loop this up. And then it was like, oh shit, it's cool. And he had the S950 so he could slow it down. So the reason I said that, and the reason that, you know, Size 9 was such a big song at that time, the rave scene, it was everything, man. It was like the rave scene in America was just amazing. It was like you had, you know, techno, breakbeat, you had all these different stages, and everyone kind of worked with everyone, and you would wander from one stage to the next, and of course the drugs were crazy. So everyone's kind of zonked out, but that opens your mind sometimes, you know, and it takes your inhibitions away. And I'm not promoting drugs at all, I'm just saying that is one of the factors that was at the time. It was a lot of love, man. It was love for music, and kids were young. They were like 13, 14, like
and
listening to all
what you feel today, it's different today?
So today, it's crazy today. So, you know, over time, whatever, like the whole rave scene started getting busted and everything was getting closed down. So a lot of the rave promoters became club promoters. And which was good for us because we still had livelihood as DJs, you know. And now we were in the clubs and doing our thing. But as far as the kids were concerned, we kind of lost out on a lot of things until they got older. But flash forward to today, EDM is massive in the U.S. I'm not so much against the EDM. I mean, I love all music, and there's some things that are cool. But after a while, sometimes music becomes a factory. Sorry, it becomes like, you know, you just put it in, there's a formula, and it comes out, and everything starts to sound the same. That's with anything. I mean, there was a lot of great acid house music that sounded the same. So we all of us as music lovers go through things and pick out the best of what we think is the best of each genre or whatever. So
you still find good music, yeah, today.
Yeah, incredible, man. I mean, it's like amazing, but not so much in the EDM circle, but there's some great stuff. Like, I'm friends with Cascade, and I do love a lot of things that he does. He did a song with Quadrant last year, which not a lot of people play, but every album has that one tune on there that's like, oh, I can play this, or it gets remixed, or you can re-edit, or whatever. but I like the stuff he does because it's very melodic and lots of great vocalists. He works with great vocalists. But
let's say in a 6-7 hours set, you have like a reference for how many new stuff you're gonna play, or old stuff, or just play?
I just play. I don't really. I try not to.
You
think
still
about
play
it.
vinyl?
I do sometimes in Philly, but when I travel, I mean it's too expensive.
Yeah.
But the guy at the block last night
Yolanda.
promised. I'm putting
Yolanda.
this on film. He promised to pay for bringing the vinyl over.
Luggage.
So I'm gonna do a whole vinyl set soon. It's all classics
Told you.
vinyl. I know it sounds so good in there. But anyway, the EDM scene is massive, and it's pretty much identical to the rave scene in the early 90s. I mean, even the clothes are coming back, man. The big pants. I mean, that's something we don't want to come back, but it is back. Pacifiers are back. The whole deal, right? And they're starting to see the videos from back in the day, and they're bringing this into the. As far as dubstep is concerned, which is really a phenomenon in the U.S., I think the reason it's so big is a lot of the sports stations early on caught on to the sound. It's very energetic sound, and the wobble.
This rock appeal, a bit of a rock.
Yeah, it's just
not heavy metal
it's-
appeal. Like
it's just-
distortion.
It's real. It's basically it's slowed down metalhead stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, and a lot of the sports stations in the States, NFL for football and that sort of thing, started to use these songs, which in the U.S., you know, is huge for college. So all these college jocks are like hearing the sound, and then a lot of them are doing parties. So they're seeking this music out, and they're playing these songs at frat parties, fraternity parties, and it becomes this kind of mainstream sort of music.
Speaking
And I think-
about the dubstep, I want to ask you, because you're now working with the hyperdub, which is
Right.
the biggest post-dubstep label right now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about this work? You told me you were doing an album for them. It's
Right.
great.
So, well, anyway, as far as dubstep, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it I love, and there's a lot of it I don't. It's just like with any genre, man. It's things become a formula, and it starts to get watered down in a sort of, so to speak. You know what I mean?
How do you see the
So-
connection between what you guys were doing, like establishing electronic music, the 90s in the USA, which was very underground scene all over, also in Europe, and now it's very mainstream, the electronic dance music, even though it's still the same crowd, it's kids, it's always
Right,
kids or
yeah.
young people or party people,
Right.
but there's something very different going on. Is it the world that changed, you know, just because there's internet and everything is
Yeah.
overground, or something basic changed? How do you feel about it?
I think that it's the marketing of it. The whole scene now, like I said, the rave scene, things were getting busted and whatever. It's really hard. Then promoters started to go legal and do these festivals.
Yeah, like stadiums, it's sports stadiums.
Exactly. Well, even before that, like smaller ones, like in Vegas and in LA. Electric Daisy Carnival was one of them, which is now it was in LA, but some people died, so now it's in. I mean, I say it casually, but people died, and now it's in Vegas. They got kicked out of LA, but that scene, that party, the guy that runs it was a huge rave promoter, and he went legal, and now it's one of the biggest festivals in the U.S. And that festival is kind of the pivotal point in the EDM culture, because he was bringing all of these DJs in, and the sound started to change. It was just like a culmination of a lot of things. The sound started to change because everyone has started to get access to making music. Everyone can make music now. I mean, on my iPhone, see, but on my iPhone you can. I'm on a plane making tracks. It's unbelievable what you can do now. iPad, whatever. So a lot of young people have access to it, which I think is one of the best things ever to happen in music. even though you get a lot of crap, you get a lot of forward pushing and forward thinking sounds that would never happen without the technology. Same with drum and bass. That was an accident. You know, they were working in the S950 and the sample sped up, and it's like, oh shit, yeah.
Same
You know what
as
I'm
acid.
saying? Yeah, exactly. 303, you never thought the 303 would do that sort of thing. So we're getting too geeky, but you know, I'm just saying the technology simultaneously, you know, the kids are making dubstep records and whatever, but also the promoters and the scene is more on a marketing, money-making commercial venture. You have to be now in the States. You can't be doing underground part. You're going to lose money. So with those two combined, as well as the college jocks who love dubstep, so you're getting a college crowd, you're getting the sports crowd, you're getting the electronic kids, and you're getting like the kind of geeky kids who love music all at one time. So, but the radio, they only play what kind of the David Guetta, that sort of thing. They don't play the deeper stuff because the deeper stuff, they don't have the marketing to pay for the radio spots. You see what I mean? So they don't have the machine behind them.
Or they conceive it as less radio friendly.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, they're playing more of the vocal stuff. And then Usher, and then all of these R&B artists, which on one hand, it's cool that they're doing some electronic stuff, but on the other hand, the essence of R&B music it's fucking gone. Right? You go to the UK and they're embracing what we started in the US as far as R&B. So you hit a little nerve there, but you know, I think the R&B music in the States is really kind of disintegrating. It's losing its.
Well, it went a little bit to indie white kids who make R&B now.
Which is cool, which is great. Yeah, it's you know, but you know, just these artists like Usher, Rihanna. Even though I do like one or two of the Rihanna dance tunes, you know.